Hello, if you're new to this channel, it focuses on the ins and outs of living abroad in the beautiful country of Poland. Now, for today's video, we're going to be talking about how you can enjoy your life abroad without spending a fortune. Let's get started. For all you travelers out there, I know the big question right now is number one, should I travel? And number two, should I take the opportunity to move abroad? Now, with everything that is happening across the globe, I know that a lot of people are deciding to make that move abroad. And specifically, a lot of Americans have decided to move into other parts of the world. And that includes Europe as a whole. This is the first time that I've ever seen in my lifetime this big influctuation of a lot of Americans leaving the USA. So you're probably asking yourself, is it the right time to move abroad, especially when there's like global inflation? And I want to say that the answer is yes. Obviously, it's going to boil down to your specific needs in your specific situation, but there's never a better time, and there's definitely opportunities out there. Now, you're probably thinking the second question, well, if I do decide to move abroad, how am I going to enjoy myself? How am I going to maximize the time that I'm abroad? A lot of people, when they move, the first thought is definitely not they're going to stay away from their home country for years at a time. When you first move abroad, you should really focus on that first year. And I want to give you a few ways that in that first year, when you do move abroad, or if you do live abroad, how you can definitely maximize your time, have a great time without spending a lot of money. I definitely this summer have done and used several of these strategies to kind of maximize my time here in Poland and still enjoy it. And number one, I think one of the biggest things is to stay local, is to, number one, stay in the country that you've decided to move to, or even more local, try to stay in the region that you live in. Now, just like the United States or any other country, different areas have different attractions. And so therefore, if you live in a specific area or a specific community, 9 times out of 10, you can go to a neighboring community and have a slightly different experience, especially here in the country of Poland. I live in the Silesian region of Poland, and if I just get on a train and travel an hour to an hour and a half, I'll be in a different region of Poland that has a slightly different culture than the culture that exists here, and a slightly different experience. With the idea of staying local, another thing that you can do is, instead of doing really long trips, so let's say that you're going to do a trip that's going to be for a week, or you're going to do a trip that's going to be for 5 days, try to look at little small weekend trips or even day trips. A lot of times you can have a really good time by just booking a last minute hotel, jumping on a train or a bus, and going to a location for a night or 2 nights. And you'll find that in that time, a lot of times when you do this, it's less stressful than actually like getting on a plane or like planning this big epic trip. So try it out. Go ahead and do a weekend trip. However, if you're a person and you feel like, hey, because of the pandemic and because of everything that's been happening, I need to definitely get on a plane and go somewhere. And if you're one of those people, I definitely understand. And even if you need to get on a plane and maybe travel to a different country, there's still ways that you can save money. And I say this because one beautiful way to get off that beaten path, which is something that I 101% enjoy and I advocate for, is that you can get on a plane and you can fly to a different country and you can go to a small village or a small town versus kind of staying in the capital or staying in the area in which the airport is. You'll find that when you venture away from the big cities, that prices are going to be a little bit affordable. And in addition to that, you're going to have an authentic experience, more so where you're going to encounter locals and you're going to encounter the local cuisine more so, and maybe even encounter different local events that happen in smaller communities. If you're a person where you definitely feel that you have to get on a plane, remember that there's a lot of options, and one big expense is accommodations. And it is really hard to subsidize accommodations. Now, there are a lot of creative ways to do that. I'm not going to get into that specifically in this video, but there are several ways that you can be creative and do that. But one big thing, especially when we want to think of a space that's clean and we want to think of a space that's safe, I always say that if you're doing a last minute trip, it's best to just it's best to book a hotel. Um, Therefore, there's going to be some type of standard versus Airbnbs and other accommodations. In addition to that, if you do book a hotel, there's a higher probability that you're going to have a fridge in that accommodation. Specifically, in most hotels, they have a small fridge. And I would say that go to the grocery store. You don't have to eat out every single meal. If you're a person that is light with breakfast, then you can definitely pick up something from a local grocery store and have breakfast, something that doesn't have to be heated. If you do happen to stay in an accommodation that has a kitchen, I would recommend cooking one or two of your meals that day and maybe doing dinner out or doing lunch out. This is a big way that is going to subsidize your travels. And also, again, it kind of feeds back into the fact that you get an opportunity to kind of have a more authentic experience. I found that when going to supermarkets or grocery stores abroad in different countries and different villages, you definitely get a feel of that culture through its food and what they provide in their stores. And so that is another special, easy, free way to kind of get a little bit more insight on the country or the region that you're visiting. This next component is probably a no-brainer, but start with a budget. Don't go in first with the trip or where you want to go. Start with your budget. How much money do you have to spare? I would say start with that and then kind of tailor a trip that kind of fits your financial needs. You'll find that when you make a budget, it just makes everything kind of fall into place nice and neat. And that way you don't go over budget. Or a beautiful thing is that you may find, hey, I saved money with travel, or I save money by making meals. And now we have a little extra money in our budget to do something exciting or to have a totally different, fun, and novel experience. Lastly, I want to say be creative. I know you're creative. We've been through a lot together in the last 2 to 3 years, and we've had to be extremely creative with our time. We have to be creative with our work. We have to be creative with our lives. And so don't stop that creativity. Just because we're coming out of the pandemic, I'm hoping, doesn't mean that creativity has to stop. So when you're traveling, I've seen several people online, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube that have found several ways to travel on a budget, within their budget. And it takes a little creativity and just doing a little work. The time to live your best life is now. There is no other better time than the present. Now, if you are creative and you have the creativity and you have the ability and power to be able to tailor a trip or to even tailor moving across the world in a way that is going to suit you. And you just have to tap into your potential that I know you have. Anyhow, if you like this kind of content, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. And I definitely can't wait to see you next week.